Hello and welcome to JRock's Babylon. I am your host, Jason JRock Houston, and today our guest is Toby Rand, the lead singer from the band The Fell. Now, I love to always ask Toby, that's a great place to start. Interesting name for a band, The Fell. Can you tell us how you came up with that?
Well, mate, thanks for having me, Jason, by the way. I appreciate it,
Sure,
buddy.
sure.
Yeah, so Mike and myself, we started this band in like 2017. And then when Billy came in, the three of us sat around. So this band's had this name for a long time, but it just had to, things didn't work out back then, but now we're back together. But we're thinking of names, and I guess Game of Thrones and all that kind of stuff was still really popular. So we had this kind of like Celtic symbolism because we're all from the Celtic land. And
Okay.
the fell is like an old Viking term or Old Norse term um, for like Vikings that live in the mountains,
I love that.
called
I
the
love that.
fell.
There's actually a little thought behind there.
Well, and then we're basically saying, yeah, we're going to plunder rock and roll and take over rock and roll and all that kind of shit. So it was just a bit of fun.
It's a perfect time for that, Toby. It's funny you say that because speaking for myself, I'm in my mid 50s, and a lot of my rock and roll heroes that I grew up on, they're either retiring or they're passing
Yeah,
on. And so I think it's the time when talking about 2025 and moving forward, where there's going to be a new breed of rock bands, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like a new generation of bands, like kind of picking up the torch from where the legendary artists that we grew up on kind
Yeah.
of took off from.
There's a lot of people that I'm like young bands that I'm getting inspired. There's actually a young Australian band called the Southern River Band, which just opened up for AC/DC. They're like a classic Aussie rock and roll band, kind of
Okay.
like you remember when Jet came on the scene and you had
Yeah.
Airborne and all those guys. These guys are really awesome. And then obviously Wolf from Mammoth. He's Mammoth is an incredible group as well. Like obviously he
Especially when you
does.
can, yeah, especially when you consider the albums is pretty much it's a one man band, and then he's got a
I know.
great band that he takes on the um,
Yeah.
road with him. He's really great at what he does.
Mm.
Bass, he can kind of do it all: bass, drums, lead vocals, everything.
I know it's pretty awesome. And then obviously, like even I'm in my mid 40s as well, and so is Mike. Well, we're getting to late 40s soon. And then Billy's obviously a little older than us, so we're not like a young band by any means. But the sound that we're trying to create is we're trying to make it really fresh, while paying homage to the people that we were inspired by back in the rock and roll days. So there's our record, it thrives on a lot of modern rock, but it looks into the 90s grunge,
Sure.
and the anthemic rock of the early 2000s as well. So yeah, it was a passion project that's turned into like a sick freaking band, and I'm really
Yeah,
proud of it.
I wasn't a fan of a lot of the grunge bands, but there were some that I really enjoyed, like Alice in Chains, probably because
Yeah, yeah,
they had a real Sabbathy kind of vibe to what they were doing.
yeah,
And but they could write really great songs. And what I didn't like about a lot of the grunge bands was a lot of them, but of course that's from the time period that these guys came from. We're
yeah.
talking about how depressed they were and stuff.
I know. Yeah,
Usually when I listen to music, I like to kind of be upbeat and yeah, rock and roll and all that. But it was just a different time. And now I think, like everything, it's had its time, and kind of the classic rock bands that we grew up on they've been kind of making a comeback the last, 25 years or so. And
yeah.
I think there's a place for everything.
I think so too, and I think that COVID, even though it was tough for a lot of people, COVID actually it taught people how important live rock and roll music is. So
Yeah.
now when I'm seeing some of the tours now, like peers of ours, like I know guys in Papa Roach and bands like even the old bands like Def Leppard and all these guys, they are just touring religiously, because the people are now going, man, we were without live music. I don't like this. And so I think we've seen rock and roll just start doing this ever since COVID
Yeah. Yeah.
finished. Rock and roll is now like peaking, just like it's a great time to be putting out rock and roll music. It's
And
great.
Def Leppard is one of my favorite bands, and I got to say, even there was a time during the early '90s where
Mm,
Leopard wasn't selling like they used to. But what I love
yeah.
about Leopard is, they're one of these bands that, like many bands, they could go out there and just do the greatest hits every summer, but they still put out new music. I dig that about them.
Yeah, their last record. I do I do. I have a corporate band in Las Vegas, and the guitarist Ben Carey, he was the guitarist for Savage Garden, and then he played in Lifehouse for a while. But one of his best friends is Phil Collin from
Definitely.
from Def Leppard. So I grew up when I first moved to America. Me and him became buddies in 2006, and I remember crashing at Phil's house one night. So I've been around that kind of hearing the stories about like how hard it is for a legacy band to keep that trajectory going.
Yeah, yeah.
Because 2012, Aerosmith was still touring, Van Halen came back together, and then rock and roll was just hanging on by a thread, and then something just happened where it just there wasn't much activity going on, but the traditional bands like the Foo Fighters were still putting out music and Green Day, but the legacy bands were kind of like teetering, but now they're freaking soaring.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
but they're, like you said, they're getting old, so there's room for like
The new
rock and
breed.
roll, a
The
new
new breed.
breed. Yeah, exactly. Like I look at myself as being like the younger cousin or the little brother of these bands, and so hopefully we can
Yeah.
fill a spot.
'Cause, even mentioning like a legacy band like Def Leppard, the interesting thing is their last album, which I think was called uh, Superstar Halos or something like that.
Yeah,
It went to number one actually, but now when you hear Def Leppard, nobody talks about it. They talk about Adrenalize. They talk, I mean, Hysteria,
Hysteria. Yeah, yeah,
Pyromania.
yeah.
It went number one, but it was only number one for about a week, and people forget that.
Well, there was the lead single. It's take something, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was banger.
yeah.
Like I was like, this is what it's all about, man. Recreating, because the Motley Crue, they got John Five, so they put out some new fresh sounds with those guys. Vince is probably not at his top of his game anymore, but they're still trying to put out new music, which I love as well. And then obviously we just saw Aerosmith partner with Youngblood with that new EP, and
I love that.
it's a
Yeah.
pretty epic sounding EP, man.
What's interesting about that too is I wasn't really aware of Youngblood until right before that because of course he popped up with the guys in Aerosmith, I think, and Nuno Bettencourt doing some kind of tribute at the last Ozzy
Yeah,
concert, and
exactly.
then the EP came out, and I'm like, well, I thought Aerosmith was through, but maybe they're coming back. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the whole point is that Youngblood was like fulfilling the vocal duties, so Stephen didn't have to blow himself out, because he's said that he can't sing like he used to. So it's actually not a bad partnership. So maybe if there's like a singer that I can do that with as well, I can take over. But we'll
I got to
see.
be honest with you, Toby. Until your publicist sent me the press release on your band, I've never heard of you, and so
Mm,
I want to get into your story a little today and talk about. So, interestingly enough, I seen the video for the single "The Footprints," and I was reading. Actually, that video goes back, I think, about 3 or 4 years ago, where you guys actually filmed it, I believe, in Warsaw. Is that correct?
yeah, yes, it's actually probably about 8 years ago. We like I said, Mike and I, the guitarist Mike Krompus and I, we started working on music, and then he called Billy and said, "Hey, we've got some tunes. Do you want to do some session work?" And Billy goes, "Well, how about we just start a band?" And we're like, "Okay, cool." So that's
Yeah.
where it all started. So we wrote Footprints a long time ago. We flew over to Warsaw because we met this crazy director, and he goes, "You know what? I've got this sick location. It's an old, World War II bunker. As you know, like Poland was absolutely destroyed, and so there was a lot of there was something really beautiful about going there and going into this underground bar and learning a lot about the culture and shooting this video. Obviously, it's a little bit more of a rock and roll. There's like chicks in the video and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But we thought when we put that single out, because we remixed the single and just made it more modern for today. When we put that out a couple of weeks ago, I said to Mike, "Is there any way we can just chop up the video a little bit and put it out, just for old time's sake?" And so we just put it out. It's like, it's a little bit of history. And that was the first time that where the three of us were kind of traveling to Europe and promoting
So
our
let me
record.
ask you: you said the video is actually about 8 years old. Had you released a video before? Is this the first time you're releasing it officially, or?
Yeah, so we've been doing these press junkets and these little conversations like with yourself, and basically I had to pull out of the band because I was under contract for my solo project at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the phone call with my management and the team saying, "Hey, I'm so proud of this record I just wrote," because me and Mike and Billy just shat out this awesome record like really quickly, and they're like, "But that's a clashing of interest." And I said, "Listen, just take 80% of it." I go, "Just be part of it because it can only help." And they said, "No, listen, you're kind of like you can contractually obliged just to do this, and so that was really disappointing. And I remember calling the boys, and they were pretty upset about it. And thankfully, over the years, we've stayed in touch. And this year was the year that we put it all back together, and we wrote.
I love that. It's an interesting story to hear that because, again, like you hear the old saying, good things to come to those who wait. And it's obviously this project means something to you guys. And you could have maybe, you had all these troubles getting it released or getting it out there. Now's the right time for doing that. And I'm glad you just didn't let it go to waste because obviously putting the video out there, I've seen the huge response you got. So that's got to be a great feeling,
It is it's pretty awesome. And like obviously I was feeling, very sad that I couldn't fulfill those duties back then. But every now and again I'd text Billy and I'd send him one of the songs, one of the demos. And I go, man, remember we did this? And he goes, Toby, every time I show this to my peers, they freak out, and so I go, well, let's just find the right time because obviously Billy was really busy with Mr. Big. He's got the winery dogs, every now and again Tallis does a reunion. He does 600 bloody songs on session work a year and he does, master classes. So Billy's like,
Billy Sheen, in fact, I got to tell you, I just got in the mail today a new CD that he plays on the new Peter Criss.
Yeah.
So
it went number one.
Amazing, and that's I love that for Peter because it's the first new music he's put out in almost 20 years.
Isn't that wild? I know, yeah.
So years old, and I mean he's still playing and everything just as good as ever. And it may be the last thing he puts out there, and if it is, I mean, what a way to leave your mark,
I know, what a great legacy, and I think like when we talk about people leaving their mark, having someone like Billy in the band obviously gives us that kind of rock and roll credibility. He's arguably one of the greatest to ever live playing the bass.
I gotta say, as far as Billy, I've been following him like a lot of people since his David Lee Roth day. That's where I first kind of seen him, and he does not play like your typical bass player. I mean, he's actually he's held these clinics like like a Steve Vai type of thing, just like strumming the bass and going crazy and doing his thing.
It's freaking wild, man. It really is. And like, I think with our record with the Fell, like ours is a little bit more. There's room obviously for the shredding and stuff because Mike is an incredible guitarist as well. I'm not sure if you know much about him either, but he is the most insane guitar player. And watching those two, do this kind of battle is pretty incredible.
Like in the press release, it obviously mentions everybody, all the band members, but. You could have probably sold a ton of records just saying, the Fell featuring bass legend Billy Sheen, but it's a whole band was what I love about it.
Yeah, everyone's like on their game, and we've had different iterations of drummers over because this band, we had different drummers that work with us. The first records that we cut back in the day was Randy Cook, who's arguably one of the best drummers I've ever met as well. Canadian lad who lives in Los Angeles. We had Rich Redman, who's Jason Aldean's drummer. And then now we have Nick Chiore, and him and Mike have been buddies and playing rock and roll together since they were 15. So they're two Toronto boys. So the band, and Nick used to do sessions with Slash and other, kind of rock stars back in the day. So, and the big test is we did a live recording session out in Toronto, and the four of us had to rehearse and then play for the first time, with Nick on drums. And the big test was see how Nick and Billy were going to interact, and they really hit it off, So and that was and Nick at the end was like, "Fucking thank God," because Billy plays. I was just saying because
when I seen the video for fingerprints or footprints, excuse me, for the first time, and I'm seeing Billy, I'm like, of course you go back to first Mr. Big, that was pretty heavy, like Addicted to that Rush and stuff like that, but this is some of the heaviest stuff he's ever played on, which is pretty impressive,
Yeah, I love that it's heavy. It's heavy, but the one thing that we always draw on as the four of us is we're looking for the melodic hooks as well, and you'll notice when we drop the full LP next year, because we have at the moment I think we have 13 or 14 songs. We've only put out 5. We have a couple of like rock anthem ballads in there. And a lot of the songs just have hook after hook after hook, and that's what I think we love. We try and do. We want to make sure it's heavy rock, but we also want to make sure it's catchy. Because I come from the environment, like I grew up listening to, big anthem rock and roll songs. So I love having a melody just kind of live with me all day
At
once I
the
hear it.
same time, I love some of those bands you mentioned because, like, obviously talking about Billy Sheehan and the band Mr. Big. It's interesting because if you listen to most of the Mr. Big catalog, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Uh, they had a lot of heavy stuff, but like, what's funny is the one song everybody talks about is the power ballad "To Be With You" because it went
to
number
be
one.
with you. I know.
That's what they're remembered for. And Extreme, the same thing. If you know the band Extreme from
Of
Boston,
course, of course. Nuno and the boys. Yeah,
yeah,
more than
yeah.
words. Yeah, yeah.
They had a big hit with that song.
More than
Uh,
words.
yeah, more than words,
Yeah.
and that's all anybody talks about when they say Extreme. They think they had one hit, but there's much more to what they do.
I know that, and that's the thing because obviously people will be drawn to that ballad, but the catalog is like heavy riff rock and roll, and the singer just
Yeah,
singer wailing. Gary Sharon, another incredible voice. You know what I mean? So like I'm with this band, I think we get to show off a lot of our talents as well. So you'll. I can't wait for you to hear the rest of the record. There's some
I can't
moments
wait to
where,
hear it. We'll definitely have you back on it. It's because
yeah,
we're just getting a chance to get your story out today. Now I hear an
mm.
accent, so I got to ask, where are you originally from? If you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm from Australia. So I grew up in Melbourne, but I'm British as well. So I'm a British Australian, two passports. My mum's from Wales, my dad's from Portsmouth in England. So they came over to Australia. Instead of staying in a rain-soaked, miserable place, they went to a tropical island, and that's where we grew up. So
Yeah, that's kind of like AC/DC. They're originally from Scotland, but they're known as Australians. And
yep, that's
um,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So when you were growing up, did you always have that dream of coming to America?
I think the dream was. I think the dream kind of presented itself to me. But in Australia, like when I was growing up, I was playing 6 nights a week in pubs. We had a full van, a
Yeah.
full band, a crew, and there was so much work in Melbourne because Melbourne's known as Rock City in Australia. We were just living the life up until I was about 23, 24, 6 nights a week, just having the best time. And then I guess when I was with a band called Duke Cartel, and we were a pretty popular Australian band, and we just started doing like the Taste of Chaos, Warped. We ended up opening up for like bands like Nickelback at the big stadium show, and so we were just getting on radio, and then the dream of America came up for me to join a show where I was auditioning for Tommy Lee's new band with Jason Newsted on bass
Oh,
and
okay. Wow.
and Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses. So when I came over to America, I ended up, doing the TV show, and then my band signed a deal, and they all flew over to America, and then we
So what
toured the
was that
world.
experience like being on the TV show again? People tuning into you every week, and
It was fucking awesome.
yeah,
I got to say, a lot of people have like bad experiences with things like that. It changed my life. It was
sure.
one of those incredible moments where we got to write music on the show. I got to play a song that my band had performed in Australia, and then it blew up, and then it became like all over the radio in Australia, and then we got to tour and made the top 30 at one stage, and just ended up going on the road with Slash and friends for like 2 years, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
just we
Wow.
played shows at Aussie and Chester Bennington and
Look at you, man. I
mm,
didn't even, I'm not even aware. Like, you're one of the best kept secrets out there. You got all this talent, and you've had all these great experiences, and hopefully more people through the fell will learn about who Toby Rand is.
well, that's it, man. Like, I guess in my own little world, people know who I am, but like in this big, great rock and roll world that I've started with the Fell, it's a different type of rock and roll. Like the rock and roll I was doing with my old band was more of this alternative, commercial rock, I guess, in a way. So it wasn't kind of veering necessarily on where the Fell is pitching themselves now, which
Yeah,
is like this active rock. When you think about radio stations, you think about Sirius XM now, you think about Octane and Aussie's channels. So we fit into a different area now, which I haven't dabbled in before. So it's kind of exciting to meet people like yourselves who are like, rock enthusiasts
yeah.
from all types of, genre.
I'll always support, like, new music. And
Yeah,
again, it's interesting what you're talking about earlier about with during COVID. Being from Los Angeles, we have a legendary Whiskey A Go Go, and I
yeah,
remember They closed all the venues down for several months, and we had a
Yeah.
governor here in California, not to get political, but he
Yeah.
actually went on TV and was saying stuff like, "Oh, you know, as long as I'm in power, I'm going to never allow anybody to ever perform a concert in the state of California again." And my point bringing it up is, thank God it didn't come to that, because
No.
can you imagine what an awful world? You couldn't go to see a live band play,
Yeah.
and even as a working musician that time, that'd be a pretty scary thought, you know?
It is. Well, I actually, I am from California, so I'm only in New York now because that's where I'm spending the holidays. But I have a house in Long Beach in California.
Hey,
I've
I gotta
Yeah.
say, Toby, I'm coming at you from Long Beach. I'm a Long Beach boy all my life.
What? Are you in Long Beach now?
Yeah. Actually, you know where Naples is, right off of Second Street. I live.
You're kidding me.
No,
That's
we have to
amazing.
get together one day.
Yeah, dude. I'm like down in Junipero where the bluff is. You know, where they do the yoga down there.
Oh
Yeah, man.
yeah, okay, wow.
Yeah. I'm right on the area of the hood, dude. It's fucking awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been living there for like 3 or 4 years. More in New York now with my wife, yeah. But I was in West Hollywood up until
That's good.
20.
You get the experience of chance to experience both coasts, you know.
Yeah, like my old band, we used to like just go. We used to play the Troubadour and the Roxy's and things like that. We did the Sunset Music Festival a bunch of times, and then when, like I said, like that band actually finished about 2013, I think it was, and that's when rock and roll was going through this weird thing, like because techno and EDM and stuff were taking over DJs and online music and stuff. So rock and roll had a really tough time. And then I've just seen the resurgence, around 2018 till now, kind of like just start rebuilding again.
And I got to ask you, because I seen you also have a video for the song Kill Switch.
Kill Switch, yeah.
Pretty cool. And it kind of, it's a rocking song and stuff, but it just great video. I mean, talk about the making of these videos. Well, you talked about the other one, but like Kill Switch,
yep.
Did you guys just kind of film that one day, or was that like?
So Kill Switch, we had a choice of what was going to be our comeback single, like our first one to break into the market, and it was a unanimous vote that Kill Switch was the perfect track because it just explodes. It's such a great song to perform as well. So we Mike is kind of like the general of the band, and so he has the band house in Toronto where the studio, we do most of our recording and stuff, and so we all flew over to Toronto and we went to this awesome space, DC Studios. And we hired just a great director, and we just basically established we want to establish ourselves as a really active rock and roll band, and just show what it's like to be what it's going to be like on stage, and then we just put a really beautiful model in it with tattoos, and then that's the video.
You agreed, right?
Yeah, exactly, and and Kill Switch was an important song because it's particularly during COVID, you feel like you're kind of trapped and stuff, and something's got to change, and so you got to.
I remember, being here in Long Beach during COVID, and I could not believe, busy Second Street. There was a period where no cars were even going by in the street. Nobody was driving their vehicle. It looked like a ghost town. You would not believe. Yeah. And before I let you go, Toby, a few more questions. Okay, so obviously I got to ask, you guys have any plans to do any live shows together as a Phil, or you think you'll wait till after the album comes out?
We just announced what day is it today? Saturday? Yeah. So we just announced 3 shows. We just posted it. So we're starting. They're kind of like our precursor shows. We've got this really cool agent, but we're doing shows in. I'm just pulling it up now. I can't believe it.
Great. Yeah.
The shows we're doing are in. So March 25th, we're in Niagara Falls at the Evening Star Concert Hall. The 26th of March in Warrendale, Pennsylvania, at Yergles, and then the 28th at Westland in. Is MI? What's MI? Is that Michigan?
I think so. Yeah, Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, Westland, Michigan. The Token Lounge. Yeah, in Detroit, I think it is.
Detroit, Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So yeah, we've got those 3 shows, and then we're gonna have a lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot more rolling out. We're gonna we're going to probably do rehearsals down at Billy in Nashville with Billy, because Billy's got some great studios down there. He shares a studio with like Ray Luzier as well, which is one of my favorite drummers. So
Another guy that was in David Lee Roth band.
I know, yeah, I know that rad. So yeah, hopefully we get we're really excited about that. So and then we have there's a couple of big legacy artists that we're being pitched for to open up for during the summertime.
Congratulations with
So
that. I hope that all works
yeah,
out.
man.
Now let me ask you, well, you just kind of said you must be pretty excited for the very first show. I mean, that'll be a true test, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. We were all in a group text yesterday, and we're all like, "Holy shit! We actually get to do this live." And then quickly we're like, "Okay, we need to find the right sound guy. We need the right crew. How are we going to stage it? What's the lighting going to be like? We're going to make sure our in-ears are all ready to go." So now it's like we want it to be as just how you hear it on the record. We want it to sound just as attractive, you know. So a lot of work is going to go into making sure this show is just tip top, you know, and then we'll just build it from there, man. So I'm really very excited about it.
Yeah, and how hard is it coming up with a set list? Because again, this is a project that people are just kind of learning about. People are going to be coming to these shows not knowing a lot of songs. This is your introduction, so to speak.
Yeah. So we're hoping that by the time that comes around, the EP, which has got the 5 tracks, we're hoping that people will be, you know, well into that. We're going to do another drive forward to kind of promote that. And then there's talk about, you know, doing songs from some of our history. So we might, we might lean on something and find a song that Billy's really passionate about from his past. We'd probably take there's a song from my band, Duke Cartel, that we'd probably take, and then Mike gets to throw one in the ring as well. So, you know, cool. we're gonna make sure there's some sort of like a little bit of history in there, but generally we're an all new original band, and some of the new shit we're working on is
amazing,
fucking awesome. It's like me and Mike were just on a FaceTime yesterday, just sending back and forth.
And I got to tell you, Toby, before I let you go, you know, probably the last band that really got me excited as far as, you know, one of these bands kind of that you could say one of the new breeds is the Dead Daisies. And
the
thing about them is they always got like an alternating cast of musicians. They're all top class, and it's one of those bands where the song is just kind of kick-ass songs, and that's what really should matter, you know. And they put on a kick-ass live show, and so I think the film might be in that new breed there.
Thanks, mate.
You know, time will tell, but
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Good luck with that. But now, I was going to ask now, when you so the EP, is it out now, or can people get that?
Yes, mate. It is all on the streaming platforms. The EP is called Kill Switch. It has 5 tracks. We have we've released 4 of them, and one of them is kind of like our upbeat rock dance song called Dancing on the Glass Floor.
So the full length will be the songs from the EP plus what hasn't been released, right?
Exactly, and you know, and these are songs that we've had in the vault for a while, but we've also, like I said, working on some fresh stuff, which I'm absolutely like stoked about, you know. So
yeah, I think the EP is probably going to be a great way to introduce everybody to the band. And if I got the EP, I think my only complaint would be I want a full length, but
you want exactly, yeah. You know, well, that's not a bad problem to have, mate. You know, so yeah.
And so I was going to ask, when you guys record the songs, is there ever a time where everybody can't show up, or they have to record it in their home studio and you piece it together?
Yeah, so a lot of that. Well, when we're working on new material as well, we do a lot of like throwing the music around, and then we do FaceTime sessions where we just kind of work it out. But we're really fortunate that just recently we did a couple of trips up to Toronto, and we were able to kind of work a lot of stuff out in the studio there. But with so we have a batch of like 12 or 13 that's already kind of ready to go.
Oh, wow.
And then now we have another batch of 4 that was going to be a lot of remote work, but then I'll fly up, and then we might meet in Nashville for Billy, and we'll do a proper session where, because I like being in the room. I like having I like being produced when I'm singing as well. I like someone saying, hey, you know, you've got a little more there, you know what I mean? Like, try this, you know, and I really enjoy that, you know, that collaboration.
It's funny you say that, because, you know, when I was growing up, and all my favorite records were coming out, back in the day, they everybody was in the same room together, and it just gives it a certain kick, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we're gonna put out a live recording that we did. We did all the songs, or four of them, live in the studio, and that we went when we played it live. It was we did it like over and over, like did like four takes of each song, and that was just really inspiring to see, the evolution of the first take,
yeah.
second take,
Wow.
the third take, the swagger, and then the last take, we're all laughing. You know what I mean? So it's just like, there's nothing like being in the room.
I can't,
Obviously,
I can't wait
remote.
to, I
Yeah,
can't wait to hear everything. I can't wait to see that. Toby, it's been great
awesome.
chatting with you. I could talk to you all day, but you know what? Thanks for doing this. I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas holiday
Yeah,
season. It's one
thanks,
week
mate.
away.
Yeah,
Rock,
thank you, mate.
rock a new year with the fell, and like I said, the interview be going up later today. I'll let you know about that. Thanks
Yep.
for doing this, and please let's keep in touch, my friend. I'd love to have
Yeah.
you back. Okay.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate the time, mate. It's actually my birthday tomorrow as well, so let's go.
Okay, Toby, blow on a candle for me.
Yeah, I will, mate. All right, buddy. Appreciate you, mate. Thanks for supporting rock and roll. Appreciate it, buddy.
Brother, you too. Keep pumping it out, and we'll keep supporting it.
All right, man. Cheers,
Bye
buddy.
bye.
Bye.